Oh, my bad. Sorry, didn't see you guys there. Of course, I'm all blurry. If you guys know, you know. Let's get back in focus. I'm trying to sweep with a hiking stick because the Mets came out. They win 9-3 is your final, folks. They have swept the Miami Marlins. Exactly what I was hoping that this team would do after sweeping a two-game set at home against the New York Yankees. Let's spam those W's in the chat for you, boy. Another day, another Mets victory, another series sweep, baby. Back-to-back, technically. We got the 2-game for the Subway Series. Now we got the 3-game here against Miami. The Mets now have 6 straight victories on the season, are 55-5 on the year when scoring 4 or more runs in a ball game. Had a season-high 19 hits tonight that you saw against these fish in Miami, that being the Miami Marlins, and look to extend their win streak tomorrow with Mad Max Scherzer on the bump in D.C., Jacob deGrom making his season debut this Tuesday on the trade deadline day, and Chris Bassett looking for, hopefully at that point, another series sweep to wrap things up on Wednesday against the Nationals. Guys, I'm absolutely pumped up. I know you guys are too. What an amazing win for the Mets. And look, this Marlins team, you fully expected the Mets to jump on them and jump on them often. That's exactly what they did today. They took advantage of the opportunities given them, and they got the job done. Even when Taijuan Walker didn't have his strongest stuff tonight, they still came out and absolutely shoved. This team is electric. They're looking phenomenal post-All-Star break against good teams and against bad teams. Let's continue to roll here, folks. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little greedy. I want a 9-game win streak at minimum. You got to sweep those DC and the Nationals, folks. That is what I want, and that's what all Mets fans want. For the Mets to go into this series against Miami Marlins, folks, to look at Sandy Alcantara, to look at Pablo Lopez and say, you know what? That's going to be a piece of cake. If they have that mentality and were able to execute the way that they were able to do today against Lopez, I fully expect them to be able to execute against an absolute bottom feeder, a basement dweller, however you would call it, that Keith said on the broadcast, that being in the Washington Nationals. So how's it going, everybody? Thank you all so much for chiming in for the latest post-game show here in WardyNYM. As you can see, I'm sharing my initial reactions to another big Mets series win, a series sweep, as a matter of fact. 6 straight wins on the year now, folks. The Mets finished July with a 17-8 record. And in case you're wondering if you knew that number already, heading into the month of July, folks, the Mets, on paper, were facing 8 teams above 500 and 17 teams below 500. The Mets, this was their second easiest month schedule-wise. The first easiest schedule-wise is going to be September, more than likely. So you had to take advantage of the opportunities given you. The Mets won 5-3 against teams above 500, and then whatever the other win and loss column is there for teams below 500. They did exactly what they need to do here in July, folks, and really have looked great post-All-Star break. So I'm pumped up. I know you guys are too. Every single player and their mother got a hit for the Mets in the live today. We take that to the bank. To everyone in the chat right now, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you're joining this post-game show. Help us get to 100 likes for the first short-term goal. We're trying to get to upwards of 300 by the end of the show today. This will be upwards of a 45-minute to an hour show, folks, per usual. Let me know your thoughts down below. And after I recap everything that you need to know about this big Mets W, this series sweep of a W today, I'll cut things off for people on replay. Then we'll get to more of your donations, your comments, your questions, and concerns. The Braves swept the D-backs today. Who gives a rat's ass? It doesn't matter. The Mets are staying afloat, 3 games above 500 right now. We take that to the bank, not above 500, 3 games up in the NL East, I should say. The Mets control their own destiny. When you got 9 games in a 2-week span against Atlanta, that's going to dictate a lot. However, something that will be different by that point, both teams will have new acquisitions on their club. There's a strong chance the Mets will make trades today and or tomorrow leading up to the trade deadline this Tuesday. The Braves are destined to add more bats, even though that, they're huge swing and miss as is. They want to add more there, maybe some more contact guys. There's going to be new acquisitions for both teams respectively. But the best part of it all, folks, is that regardless on what the Mets do here at this year's trade deadline, they get the best acquisition available out there. It's not even remotely close. And his name starts with Jacob and ends in deGrom. When you get the best pitcher in baseball who hasn't pitched on a New York Mets mound in a year, finally back for the Mets, going for a pennant race, going for a deep run here in October. This is exactly what you need. So the Mets are not just gaining internal acquisitions, they're going to be gaining external acquisitions. These are all factors that the Braves haven't dealt with so far against the Mets. It's going to be damn exciting to see how not just Jake does against the Braves in the next week plus, but also the likes of having Trevor May back in the bullpen. James McCann, should he not be dealt, even though there is a potential possibility he would be dealt in the Cubs, the Mets need a contract to, in fact, acquire Contreras and all the external options the Mets make. It's exciting times in Mets land right now. I know that's how you guys feel too. So, guys, bear with me. Let me put this back real quick. On pace for 102 wins right now, or just casually on pace for 102 right now. On pace for 103, not 02. That's fine. I mean, the more Mets wins, the fact that the Mets are on pace, folks, for over 100 wins this year, that has to feel good. That has to feel electric. So continue spamming those W's in the chat, folks. We're going to be breaking down the game and everything that transpired on a laundry list of notes that I have right here, folks, on my phone. Look at that. Just look at that laundry list of notes that we got right there. It's a ridiculous amount. So we're going to be getting into that here in a second, guys. Thank you all so much more for chiming in. I appreciate you guys. I love this. I love the fact that we're seeing a lot of love that we're seeing regarding Daniel Vogelbach. Let's get some love in the chat for Vogie. Vogie went 2 for 4 today. He did have himself a run scored. Vogelbach has been on base now 13 of 23 times now to start off his Mets career. He's an absolute beauty. I love Daniel Vogelbach to death, and I hope you guys do too. He's just been an absolute whirlwind. Tyler Naquin, his second back-to-back start now with the New York Mets, his second start overall, I should say. He gets himself 1 for 5. Isn't in my top 5 today, but had that phenomenal RBI triple, folks, for his first base knock. First RBI as a New York Met and a run scored. We love that from Naquin. Vogie was a beast. Again, Vogie in the 4th spot today was really nice. I love his eye at the plate. I just love his bat-to-ball skills. For a guy that, again, roughly 300 pounds, over 6 foot. I saw Darren, a great member on the channel, the best Mets fan you'll meet from the UK, did in fact buy Vogelbach's jersey just now. So shout out to Darren. He tweeted, he said, I want to buy his jersey. The Mets Twitter replied and said, do it, exclamation point. And Darren went and did it. He was a man of his word. So you love to see that. My goodness gracious. You guys are the absolute best. Give me some Vogie love. I also want to know to everyone here in the live show right now, were you guys a Vogie believer, a Vogie lover, the way that I was, or did you just think that Vogelbach and it was the most lopsided deal known to man? I love Colin Holderman, but I knew that Vogelbach and what his role would be with the Mets would be important and prominent. A lot of Mets fans felt different. If you go back into the trade acquisition when it happened here on the channel that we discussed, and if you go back even further to the initial report that we discussed of the Mets showing interest in Vogelbach for a trade, so many of you said, oh my goodness, Vogelbach, he's a bum. He's hitting 228 because you casuals just focus on the average against both righties and lefties. Vogie's never going to face lefties for the most part as a New York Met. It's almost never going to happen. He's going to face righties. He's going to mash. There's a reason why he has roughly a 900 OPS entering his stint now with the Mets against righties. So let me know in the chat if you guys were someone that was in favor of the move or if you were someone that was against the move and are now pleasantly surprised with what you have gone so far. Vogie the Bear, that's a good one too. I like that. All right, guys, give me 1 second. Then we'll go forward, everybody. Gotta put this back here. Hold on. Okay. All right, guys. Let me check my Twitter real quick because you guys are telling me to check my Twitter, and then we'll deep dive this game. My apologies for people that are watching this on replay. Just bear with me because I know that there might be news happening. Okay. Sources. This is according to Chris Cotillo. I think he's on the beat for the Boston Red Sox, guys. Shout out to Matthew. You know who you are in the chat and on Twitter for saying this my way. Sources. Catching prospect Ronaldo Hernandez will travel with the Red Sox to Houston on the taxi squad, so he will be available in case a move is made. In case you're wondering, why would the Red Sox bring up a catching prospect? Well, the Mets like Christian Vasquez. And the Mets are not going to do a trade with the Chicago Cubs that we have spoken endlessly on. I did a Twitter Spaces late last night. We talked about it further there, along with the stream on the channel yesterday and all that fun stuff. If Wilson Contreras' price doesn't drop, the Mets have the perfect pivot in JD Martinez and Christian Vasquez. I'm in full favor of it, the same way that I'm in favor of Contreras and Robertson. I would want the Cubs deal a little bit more, but they're really 1A, 1B. So that's enticing news. That tells you that there's a very strong chance that Vasquez could be dealt. If he is going to be dealt, if I'm a betting man, it looks like he's going to probably land in Queens, I would imagine, unless it's a situation where the Mets get Contreras, then maybe I could see Vasquez going to either the Padres or the Astros. I know the Astros want catching depth, maybe not to the degree of Contreras. I know the Padres would like Contreras, but they're also really focused on Soto first and foremost right now. So there's a lot of focuses. But yeah, Vasquez looks like he's going to be dealt, and he can surely land in the Mets' lap if they play their cards right And if the Cubs, again, stay stubborn on their price, to which the Mets are going to say, we're not giving away Mark Vientos. We're not doing it, so we're going to trade with a team that we feel that we can do a deal without giving up Vientos. Still wait and see. But, guys, let's get into this Mets W today. Continue smashing that like and subscribe on. I greatly appreciate 100 likes in 12 minutes. You guys are the best. Help us get 300 by the end of the live show. But, guys, the Mets offense, what was it today? It was absolutely electric, folks. They come out, they score 9 runs on 19 hits at 333 expected batting average. Pablo Lopez, a guy that's trying to increase, for the Marlins' sake, his trade stock, really just put himself in a position where he won't look nearly as appealing for the trade deadline. Had his worst start of the entire season, folks. The Mets were the first team this year to score 6 earned runs on Pablo Lopez and get him out of a start in only 2.2 innings. We take that to the bank. Even with Lopez having a piss poor start, guys, only has a 3.41 ERA on the year. That shows you how good Lopez has been consistently and how nice it is for the Mets to jump on one of the better starters in all the NL. Same way that they jumped on Sandy Alcantara and made him go only 5 innings the other day. Like, what? Alcantara always goes 7 or 8. It's a guarantee. So shout out the Mets. Literally their biggest issue starter-wise this entire series was Nick Nider yesterday. Like, are you kidding me? Regardless, though, big win for the Mets today, and they jumped on early. Morgan, thank you so much for the new membership. Hype in the chat to you, my man. Thank you guys so much for the donations. I'll get to them after I break down this game, but the Mets were scoring early, and they were scoring often. Before I could even turn on my TV, I got the notification that Alonso already had an RBI, so I went and rewinded the game like not even 5 minutes, because Francisco Lindor, a.k.a. the Marlins' father, gets himself a double. Lindor had a phenomenal day at the plate today. Sounds like that ends in Y, especially against these fish. Then you have Pete Alonso with a beautiful opposite field RBI double that would give the Mets the early 1-0 lead. Daniel Vogelbach with his first of 2 hits today. How you doing, Vogie? We love Big Bubba, as I love to call him. McHits, who literally only had 1 game this entire month of July with 2 hits, got his second game with a multi-hit game yesterday, and that made it his 3rd game with a multi-hit game today with 3 hits. The 1 of 3 hits would start in the first with an RBI single, just bombarding Pablo Lopez. Tyler Naquin grounded into a fielder's choice, and Mark Canha, however, would get himself first pitch swinging after Canha had the day off yesterday with Naquin starting. Marte got the day off today after looking a little under the weather today. Perfect day for Marte not to start with how well this Mets offense was. No less Canha, who was absolutely atrocious with runners to scoring position in Game 1 against Sandy Alcantara. Again, when you're facing Sandy, I understand these things are hard. No less Canha, first pitch swinging, opposite field, base knock for an RBI. The Mets have an early 3-0 lead in the first inning, folks. And we know the story. When the Mets score early, they don't just score often, but they tend to win ball games. And once they got that 4th run, I was feeling pretty damn confident this team, who has now won a total of 21 straight games when scoring a total of around 4 or more runs, 55-5 on the year with 4+ runs. We take that to the bank. Let's get those brooms out there. We're sweeping those Marlins. We're sweeping them fish off the dock right now. They're stinky. We want nothing to do with them. We get to the second. Patty Mazeika getting a rare start for the Mets today. Mazeika magic, baby. He was one of basically every other Mets hitter today, not named Naquin and Nimmo. Everyone else, for the most part, was absolutely raking today, as they all got multi-hits. Same thing with Patty Mazeika. Beat the shift today, got a nice little base knock, and that you had the runners, you had a runner already on in the second. Francisco Lindor would get an infield single after it was reviewed, and shout out to the Mets and being so phenomenal with challenges. They have a higher success rate by far than any other team in baseball when challenging plays. They've done double challenges this year that have won in their favor. They've done single challenges that have won in their favor, like today. We love that for Mazeika. You see 2 on, less than 2 out. However, there would be Alonso double play that would end the inning. That's fine. However, Mets still up 3-0 early. Taijuan Walker again. Ty's not in my top 5. Didn't even have a bad day at the on the bump, that being Taijuan Walker. But he didn't have anything fancy either. It was one of those things where, Ty wasn't locating perfectly. Got beat up a little bit. Couldn't even go 6. But, for a Mets team that needs Ty as sharp as humanly possible against the Atlanta Braves 4 or 5 days from now, that's okay. We will live with it. Ty went, again, 5.2 strong, 3 earned runs. But before we get to Ty's final line, folks, and the immaculate bullpen that was for the Amazons, with all guys that are really looking like there's a strong chance that none of the 3 guys that pitched out of the Mets bullpen today will probably be with the Mets post-trade deadline this bullpen, if I'm a betting man, based on the acquisitions that are inevitable. However, in the 3rd inning, offense continues. Jeff McNeil gets himself a nice double. Tyler Naquin with an RBI triple beats the little gap there of a diving attempt there in the outfield by the Marlins. That gives the Mets at that point a 4-0 lead. Mark Canha, how you doing? With an RBI base knock. Canha's second RBI of the day, and we're only in the third inning, folks. So when it rains, it pours. That was the case for the Mets offense on these Miami Marlins. Luis Guillorme, solid day at the plate for Guillorme. Had himself a base knock there. Brandon Nimmo with an RBI single. That would be the final run scored. Mets up 6-zip rather, that you see there through 3 innings. You take that to the bank every single day of the week. The Mets offense has just been relentless time and time again. They're scoring left and right. In the fourth, while they didn't score, they had a couple guys on with a Pete Alonso base knock and Jeff McNeil base knock. Jeff already at that point, folks, had himself his 3rd hit of the day, and we're only in the 4th inning. So shout out McHits for having a phenomenal day at the plate. 3 for 5 for total with an RBI. That's why he's in Wardy's top 5 today at number 3. Him and Lindor had the exact same final line. Laughing at the other poor team, says Michael in the chat. That's fine. We advance forward here, folks, with the Mets offense. In the 5th, Luis Guillorme with a beautiful opposite field double. Patty Mazeika with a single, his 2nd of the day. Brandon Nimmo with an RBI and a fielder's choice that would bring in Mark Canha. You'll love to see that too. Some poor, I would say, bad fundies that we saw today by the likes of the Miami Marlins. Joey Wendell had a rough day in the field. Something that I think we have seen a lot, if I'm being quite honest with you. Man, oh man, all I know is that the Mets took advantage of every opportunity given them and then some for a team that was 1 hit away, of course, from 20 hits on total in this matchup. In the bottom of the 5th, Jacob Stallings with runner scoring position, giving me PTSD from Pittsburgh last year, gets himself an RBI base knock, and then Ty would escape the jam with having 2 runners on, 2 out still, only surrendering that 1 run. We get to the 6th, Ty dealing with a jam once again. Jesus Sanchez with an RBI ground out. And LeBlanc gets his first career home run. It would be a solo bomb off of Ty, and that is where Ty is pulled for the game. Jacob Stallings would have a double off of Tommy Hunter, who would come in relief, only needing to get that 1 out there in the 6th. Not a problem, folks. We get to the 7th inning. The Mets continue to tack on with this offense. Mark Canha with a single, steals second base. Mark Canha's first stolen bag and what feels like literally since, I don't know, like the first series of the year or something. Canha only has 2 stolen bases this year, folks. He's strategic about it, though, which I like. Canha isn't known for being a big base runner, just knows when to steal a bag every once in a blue moon. He does that there. Guillorme with the walk as well. Mazeika with a beautiful sack bunt to shift the runners to 2nd and 3rd with less than 2 out. And then Canha would score after a poor fielder's choice. That's when that happened, when Brandon Nimmo put the ball in play. And Lindor, right after that, would hit a 105 exit field liner. Joey Wendell tried to combat that, tried to get it. It hit off of him. He was not able to handle it. Lindor with an RBI single again to 2nd. We get into the 8th inning, folks. Vogelbach would get his 2nd base knock of the day. The Mets would do nothing there, and the bullpen just shut the door. Steven Nagosic's first outing for the Mets. And what feels like since, I don't know, the Padres series back in San Diego, correct me if I'm wrong, I know Nagosic has not pitched in the Mets bullpen in literally what feels like at minimum a month plus. So Nagosic went 2 strong, 4 strikeouts, only surrendered 2 hits, has a 0.61 ERA and 8 outings now as a New York Met as a reliever. Yon Lopez threw 25 pitches in the 9th, should have had an out sooner than what he did to end the game. However, he still got out of that unscathed, had 1 walk, no hits, no strikeouts. Mets win this one by a final of 9-3, folks, and they just did some unprecedented things tonight this season. Again, when you get 19 hits, the best that you've had all year, that's something to be patting your back on 1,000%. I actually have a bunch of notes here on my phone as well that I want to get to statistically. Let's see here. Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second, everybody. Every Mets hitter has been on base at least twice today. And this was recording Anthony Tacoma earlier. Not that he's wrong. I'm just making sure I remember these numbers. 8 of their 9 batters have scored a run. New York has 19 hits. Absolutely disgusting. I mean, it was Jekyll and Hyde, the differences between these two. Shout out to James Shiano, a great friend on the channel, part of the Mets Stuff podcast, the official Mets podcast for the New York Mets. The Mets have also scored 4 earned runs against Sandy Alcantara twice. The rest of the league has only done it once. When looking at the Mets taking advantage of Pablo Lopez today, knowing that, again, the Mets were like the first team all year to score 6 earned runs off of Lopez, they also jumped on Alcantara, something that rarely happens, few and far in between. So when looking at all these numbers, guys, what it does tell you is that the Mets, they're rolling right now. This offense, while it can be streaky at times, we know that when they have things clicking. When you get the new acquisitions in Vogelbach, Naquin, who are depth guys for you guys. These aren't even the biggest acquisitions the Mets will make by the trade deadline, I promise you. a JD Martinez, a Wilson Contreras, a Christian Vasquez, a Trey Mancini. One or multiple of those guys is going to land in Queens. I feel very confident in saying that. Maybe a Brandon Drury, who's available via trade right now. A lot of teams are showing interest in the former Met, now foe. Kyle Farmer, another current Red that is raking against lefties. A lot of bad options, some nice reliever options. The Tigers. You have David Robertson, the closer, of course, for the Cubs. Ron Darling famously said on SNY's broadcast today that he feels like he very well can land here. I wonder why Ron feels that way. It's almost like he knows something that we all know, that yes, the Mets really, really want, that being in David Robertson. So the Mets have so many options. I cannot wait to discuss and react live when we find out exactly what the Mets are going to land, when is it going to happen, and share our live reactions to this as we get pumped up and ready for Jacob deGrom's ultimate return this Tuesday, the day of the trade deadline. So I do see a bunch of donations, all that fun stuff. Thank you guys so much for that. Continue smashing that like and subscribe button here in the live show. Everybody, we're going to start to get all your comments, questions, and concerns about this game. Before I do, I just want to deep dive once more. WardyNYM, 1 for 6. We have him in my top 5. Mark Canha's my number 1 star because Canha had a phenomenal day at the plate. I loved his base running. I loved everything about Canha today. He just looked locked in, did a phenomenal job against Lopez and the bullpen ultimately for the Marlins. 3 for 5 with the 2 RBIs and 2 runs scored. Francisco Lindor, my number 2 star. Him and McNeil, the same exact stat lines, folks. 3 for 5 respectively, with a double, an RBI, and a run scored. Brendan Nimmo, even though he won 1 for 6, still looked good on the base pass, had a run scored, was hustling, especially there that we saw later in the game, I should say, when that led to Francisco Lindor getting that RBI base knock. He turned a single to a double, basically, even though it's not an official double. Nimmo with 2 RBIs on the day, and Alonso 2 for 5, finally starting to hit the first game of this entire series. Repeat, Alonso had a base knock and clean that opposite field RBI double that we saw there to get the Mets offense started early here in the first inning against the Marlins. 2 for 5 with a double, an RBI, and a run scored. Looking further on the numbers, guys, Vogelbach, as I discussed, 2 for 4 with the run scored. We take that to the bank. Tyler Naquin, 1 for 5 with the triple, RBI triple shot. And Naquin, his first base knock, surely won't be his last as a Met. Luis Gourmet had a really, really good day at the plate that deserves credit. It just, when the Mets have 19 hits, it's really hard to narrow it down any better than what I did right now. Gourmet 2 for 4 with a run scored and a double. And Patty Mazeika Magic 2 for 4. We take that as well. So the bullpen looked great. This was back-to-back days for the Mets now, folks, where neither of these games were nail-biters. They felt comfortable from the beginning. Even when Ty gave up those runs, you just had a really, really good feeling that the Mets were going to end up winning this matchup. They surely did just that. So I'm proud of this team. You need a sweep series like this. I hope they continue to do that. And the Mets continue to roll against teams that are lesser than them like this down the stretch here, especially come September, folks. That is their easiest schedule on paper, guys. That's where the Mets can really cruise and find themselves with a 100-win season. But again, we have some big matchups before we get there. I saw Regazzo say that he doesn't believe that Vientos will get traded for rentals, which is what the Cubs are basically asking. And the Cubs asking price is not lower, then the Mets are more than likely going to pivot to a JD Martinez and Christian Vasquez, which I, as a fan, am perfectly fine with that. Again, I want Contreras, I want Robertson, but the Mets have to pivot. They have a great pivot option for JD Martinez, who had 2 base knocks today and a nice RBI double, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that, but we will see what happens, folks. But everybody here in the live show, let me know what was your biggest takeaway from tonight's game. Who is your number 1 star personally, guys? Let me know in the chat, because I think you can make a good argument for a lot of guys offensively today. People on replay, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What's your biggest takeaway from not just this 9-3 victory, but the overall series victory for the Amazons? Sweeping 6 straight dubs, looking for another 3 straight for another series sweep starting tomorrow when Max Scherzer on the bump in DC against his Nationals. The first time he'll be on the bump against the Nationals since the second game of the season, in which I was actually in attendance at. And I covered it on the channel. I got home right after that. Got home because there was a little bit of a rain later in that game. So I got home not terribly late after the game had already concluded. But yeah, make sure to let me know in the live chat right now who's your biggest takeaway from tonight's game. And for everyone on replay, this is where I'll be cutting things off.